Of his 45 points last night came on three-pointers. Crow has one of the smoothest strokes for a jumper I've ever seen on the high school level, and I've seen my share of high school legends while growing up in Chicago. Crow is going to Missouri in the fall. How in the world did USC and UCLA let a kid like this get out of their backyard? No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I have some news. The room is full. Our founding members cohort on the art of conversation has begun, and I could not be more energized by the professionals who said yes to mastering the craft. Their dedication to curating great conversations reminds me why I do this work. Now, if you wanted to join us and did not make it in time, I want you to hear this. The next cohort is coming. I do not have the firm dates yet, but I do have a waiting list. And everyone on that list will receive early access and special discounts when enrollment opens. After almost 40 years of interviewing world leaders and cultural icons, I am teaching everything I know. Don't miss your chance to be in the next room. Go to TavishTalks.com and get on the waiting list right now. That's TavishTalks.com. The conversation continues. Will you be part of it?
Yeah, man.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
KBLA Talk 1580 seem to be focusing on shelter from the storm for the unhoused this day, this rainy Wednesday. We're being joined now by a faith leader, author, and transformational voice whose life and leadership reflect the power of redemption, purpose, and collective impact. Once navigating life living on Skid Row himself, his personal journey of restoration through faith has grown into a mission focused on restoring lives, developing leaders, and strengthening communities in LA. He's the founder and senior leader of Christ-Centered Ministries, which works with the LA Regional Reentry Partnership to support people re-entering society. He previously was the CEO of the LA Mission, one of the nation's largest rescue missions. Pastor Troy F. Vaughn, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me this morning. Queen, I just appreciate all the work that you do, your voice in so many different areas in our community, but not just here locally, but across the nation. I appreciate you for having me.
Thank you. I received that, and I thank you. Your book is From Skid Row to CEO. That's your book. This title kind of says it all. But you've decided, that folks need to hear your story, and so let's give them a little taste of it. I mean, when the times that I've met you, it's giving CEO. It's not giving Skid Row at all. How does a person like yourself, who's, clearly got so much to offer to society and the world, how did you end up unhoused?
Yeah, I ended up having a psychotic break when leaving the Marine Corps. My father passed away while I was serving in the Marines at a young age, as an early teen. and he passed away with a needle in his arm at Centinela Park from a drug overdose. And I was home on leave. I had been in the Corps now about 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And I answered the phone. I was visiting my mom, and I answered the phone, and it was the coroner's office. And my father and I had been estranged for a number of years. And it really wasn't so much the call from the coroner. It was actually the wail that came from my mother's soul that broke something inside of me because I couldn't fix it. I couldn't do anything. And I felt so powerless. And I felt at that moment, didn't realize something had broken me as well.
Wow.
And back then, I didn't know I was suffering from depression and had a mental illness. And when I went back to the Corps, they elected not to treat me. They diagnosed me, but they elected not to treat me. Yeah, and they released me, although I had been diagnosed, and this is a part of the record now. I have since discovered this, going through my book, that it's a part of the record, and that's something I'm now going through with the VA, because I started having visions and tremors and dreams while I was going through revisiting that part of my history, and things started reawakening inside of me that I had.
While you were writing the
suppressed.
book, the stuff started coming up.
While I was writing the book.
Scary. That sounds kind of scary, right? I mean, because
it was very scary. Because I thought I had moved on. I thought I had moved on.
Right.
and been teaching recovery and dealing with all this stuff and dealing with trauma and myself, and didn't realize that I had suppressed this pain. And even going through all of what I went through to overcome, I still had some deep things inside of me that I needed to heal from. And in fact, it was through the process of the book that I realized that I hadn't really truly forgiven my father. And I since have, and now have gone on a whole redemption arc to restore his image. Because although he died in that way, there was a lot of positive things that I discovered about him through this process. And so now I'm on this whole redemptive arc.
So you probably weren't ready to discover those things when you were young and angry with him. And so you, like many people, from what I've talked to people over the years, is it's a traumatic or life-changing incident that, you lose a job, you lose a home, you lose the love of your life, and things seem to fall apart, lose a parent, or some combination of those things, illness, and then folks end up unhoused. And I know it's a long story, and we should get the book, but can you give me a sense of what woke up the desire to get yourself off of the streets and get yourself back on a path of helping others?
Yeah, it was, it was funny because when I was going through what I was going through, being unhoused, I never felt homeless. And I think there's a distinction between it. And most people, use the word unhoused a lot now, but I think there is a real distinction between the two. And I've since discovered that, because when you're a part of a community, you do feel like you are a part of something and you have a sense of home, you have a sense of community. And when my mom said she wasn't coming out anymore, she wasn't helping me, at that point, my lifeline was cut. And, I'm telling you, Sister Deprima, that Dominic, that was the first time that I actually felt homeless. Up until that time, I was unhoused, yes, but I never felt homeless.
Because you had a home in
community.
Because you had a home in community, and that makes sense, because that explains why a lot of unhoused persons do not want to leave the area where they are. They want housing, but they don't want housing 5 communities over. They want to stay where, more or less the area where they have community, right?
Right. They have community. And I think that that's a part of in my mind, the overall picture of how we begin to understand the issues that are facing us and how we begin to appreciate and establish community and respect community that's already established and build around that community and put resources in those communities that are established to help people survive in community.
So you pulled yourself out of this. How did you know what to do? I mean, one of the things that I hear most frequently, Pastor Vaughn, is folks, I'm living in my car, don't know how to get out of my car, don't know how to access resources, being evaluated and told that I don't have a drug problem. Or like what you said, you went to the VA, they didn't want to treat you. I hear those stories so much from people that are part of this KBLA and my front page and my street science communities over the years.
Yeah, a part of my book really talks about, what the Lord gave to me is this whole connection, what I call the divine thread, right? And really understanding how we are connected as a community. And when we understand that we're connected to one another in a very tangible way, then that's when we begin to not just seek the resources, right, that we that we need, but we allow ourselves to receive those resources. It's like, a lot of people in the community that are unhoused and in the homeless sector are invisible to a lot of people in the mass society. Right.
Yeah.
But also, and that's by a bi-directional choice, right? I think that we have to, one, be seen, but we also have to allow ourselves to be seen. And I was very fortunate that when I ended up at the Union Rescue Mission in a Christian discipleship program, I met a wonderful woman. I met wonderful people there, but one woman in particular, Dr. Lula Bailey Balton, and her husband, Carl Balton, who took a shine to me. The Lord used them to encourage me in ways that at the time I needed it, because I had been estranged from my family, and they grafted me into theirs. And she became my godmother, and it's a strange thing, to be in your late 20s and to be brought into someone's family. But they did. They adopted me in their family, encouraged me. She encouraged me. Started working for her as an aide in the Christian discipleship program. She was the education director at the time. And that's when she was forming the West Angeles Community Development Corporation. And so I was able to learn underneath her tutelage about community development and helping her develop, do all the paperwork to help develop that CDC. And I knew then something was burning inside of me. But she encouraged me to go back to school. And I would say strongly encouraged me. She made me go back. Because I resisted. I thought I had everything. I thought I was just the brightest thing walking the planet. And she said, you are gifted and you are bright, but you don't know everything. And you need to go back to school. And it turned out to be the best thing that I ever did. Because that's where I met my wife.
Okay. Well, there you go. Pastor Troy Vaughn is our guest. Of course, I want to hear more about the story, how you became a pastor, how you came to lead the Union Rescue Mission, but also get your thoughts on where we are today. This issue continues to be one of the biggest challenges, not just for Los Angeles, but nationwide. As more and more data comes out, we find out that this is not just only concentrated in San Francisco and LA and Chicago, that in fact there are unhoused people and homeless all over the nation, and the numbers are growing. We'll look at solutions and more of Pastor Vaughn's story when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
What's up? What's up?
What's up? We got to laugh the pain away.
Hey, KBLA delegation, happy Black History Month. Around here, we celebrate our culture, our community, and our contributions daily. But this year, as we observe the 100th anniversary of Black History Month celebrations, we're excited about our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, honoring comedy greats. On Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum in downtown LA, we're toasting D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Munell, Dion Cole, and Martin Lawrence with a surprise guest appearance. A limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon remain, so now would be a good time to head to KBLA1580.com to secure one for yourself. That's KBLA1580.com. A little laughter goes a long way, especially in times like these. So come, join us for our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. Again, tickets are available right now at KBLA1580.com.
Well, I hang around my boy. He been married for 6 years. Videotaping his wedding day, never watched it. Now and every day he watch it every day, but he watch it in reverse. Because he said he loves seeing himself take that ring back off of that finger. Walking back down that aisle, just waving at her ugly mother down the church. Getting back in the limo, back at the bachelor party. Look how happy I was.
KBLA Talk 1580 thanks LA City Council members Curran D. Price Jr. and Heather Hutt for being the presenting sponsors at this year's Black History Month Luncheon. Honoring excellence, resilience, and achievement, we're KBLA Talk 1580.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Pastor Troy F. Vaughn is our guest. So you get kind of taken in, adopted in a sense, virtually adopted by this family. Dr. Lola Bailey Bolton and her husband force you to go to school. You meet your wife. Where does the pastor part come in?
Yeah. I call it ministry. I started, meeting some wonderful people and attending, obviously, I was raised in church in St. Paul Baptist Church, historic St. Paul Baptist Church in LA. That was my family's church. Moved and matriculated to, other churches, exposed to different faiths. And going back to school, I ended up being called into ministry. The Lord called me into ministry. I started going back to just serve, doing the work of evangelism, wanting to serve our community. Once I graduated from the mission, my wife and I joined a church in Inglewood. And at the time, it was Inglewood Community Church. We helped helped to actually start the church. We were a part of the original planting group. There was 3 pastors, myself, and 2 other pastors. We planted a church in Inglewood, and I was doing the evangelistic part of the church, and we were coming to the mission in Skid Row and doing our mission work there, and really being fulfilled in helping to give back, because I had made a pact with God that once he delivered me and saved me, that I would serve him for the rest of my life. And I would always return to Skid Row to really be a part of the solutions there. And I try to keep that promise to him in some way, right? Either serving on boards, volunteering, recently serving as the presidency of LA Mission, all these different things to help, and I still serve on boards down there now, and help with creating programs and solutions across LA County and the state, because it's my pact to the Lord and my covenant with him. I ended up going to seminary and getting my dual master's in divinity and theology at King's College and Seminary. At the time. It was based in Van Nuys, California, and since moved the college to Texas. And then from there, I just grew.
Then you end up back on Skid Row in a completely different capacity, which is helping people, right?
Yes, it's full circle. It's the weird, like you don't know. I didn't plan it. I just ended back on Skid Row and serving people. And, God says it's a part of Scripture that says he'll bring you out to send you back that you can win some for him, and to let your light shine in a way that shows people that there is a pathway out.
But Skid Row, I mean, I haven't spent a ton of time there, but I've spent enough to know that there's so much pain and so much despair, drug use, squalor, mental agony, mental illness. I'm not trying to paint everybody, but you don't have to be, a scholar. You go walk around down there. The need is vast. Are we doing, I mean, I feel like we passed HH and HHH, and we got Safe Inside, and the county has their stuff, and yet and we've seen incremental improvement under this mayor, but the vastness of that problem is just, are we just failing? How do you see it?
The way I see it is, it's not one person's problem, it's everyone's issue, right? The greatest lie we tell ourselves is that suffering is someone else's problem. And I believe that's how the visible remains invisible. It's why we don't see the homeless. It's why we don't see the addicted. It's why we avoid tough conversations about things that make us uncomfortable. It's why we don't see the incarcerated as worthy of second chances.
But to be fair, Pastor Vaughn, it's not only because we don't want to see them or we're in denial. Like, we also don't want to get punched in the head. You know what I mean? By somebody who's having an episode. There's a question of safety, and it's not just my safety or the safety of my children. It's also the safety of that person, right? That unhoused person.
Well, I mean, and we have a lot of things honestly, there's laws that we passed that has contributed to mentally ill individuals being on our streets and not in programming. And this is the reality of when we think that, we can create legislation to, put certain things in rights. I mean, we can talk about how we got here and then how we get out of here. But the reality is that it's not a one-size-fits-all issue, right? Yeah, we can articulate the things that are wrong about Skid Row, but there's a lot of things that are hopeful, too, and right, in terms of resources that are already there and have been there for years. Mm-hmm. But we're not focused on building those resources up and, as I said earlier, creating community. It's because we don't see the consequences until they hit us, right? Like you said, until we start, crying out loud when the consequences of the ills that faces us that are around homelessness, because as a society, we've avoided it so long. But now that the crisis is hitting our streets, our doors, our livelihood, our families, something what we ignored is a crisis. And we'd like to see if we can blame somebody else for it. But we are culpable because we avoided the issue for years. And now it's facing all of us that's the point. The point is that we've avoided it, but now we can't avoid it anymore. And there's consequences for avoiding it. And now we all have to face it, right? Because we can't stay disconnected from something that we're not disconnected from, because it's not going to allow us to. It's in our face now. And we've avoided it for so long by creating communities, not focusing on the issue, but creating communities that we can hide ourselves behind. But now we can't hide behind those communities anymore because now it's encroached in those communities.
Yeah, it sure has.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so now what do we need to do? Because you can't build your way out of this. You can't avoid it, and you can't say put those people away. We have to make sure that we have to restore some of the things, in my opinion, that are needed to help people deal with illness.
Okay, so we only have
all.
We have a minute and a half here before news, traffic, and sports. We'll keep talking on the other side. Restore, like what? Give me an example of something we need to restore.
Well, Petra's Letterman, in short, created laws that that set the premise and the foundation of laws that we have on our street now, where that took away the ability for people to be cared for, families. We don't have, the hospital systems that we used to have back in the day under certain administrations. We can go all the way back to the Reagan administration and talk about things that were put in place during that time that now has an impact on us now. And so it's those kinds of things that we need to understand, because the reality is that a small percentage of the people that are taking up the majority of the resources because they're the illest. And we have to figure out how we can care for them and not allow our conscience people to say that we're violating people's rights, because we're not. We're taking care of our most vulnerable in our community. That's what we need to do. That's our charge. And if people can't take care of themselves, we need to take care of them, not leave them on the streets.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but that is an actually controversial opinion, and we'll go deeper into that when we come forward after news, traffic, and sports. Pastor Troy Vaughn is my guest. You're welcome in. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to restore a slavery exhibit removed from Philadelphia's President's House Museum. This man says it may not happen.
The answer is they could, but they probably won't. While they file their appeal, they're going to ask that the status quo remain because they're so unreasonable.
Protesters celebrated the ruling as the judge said the government must follow the law and consult the city before altering the site. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is launching a new grant program aimed at highlighting the history and achievements of African Americans across the state. The initiative will support projects that preserve and promote Black heritage in communities statewide. And Shamar Moore and Vivica A. Fox are returning to The Young and the Restless for the show's 50th anniversary. Moore reprises his Emmy-winning role as Malcolm Winters, while Fox returns as Stephanie, bringing nostalgia as the soap celebrates its milestone. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit the new Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the Kilo of Gold giveaway. Drawings every Thursday in February. Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the easiest drive from downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Casino Tejon.
Is this the Tejon? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I went to my first high school basketball game in California Tuesday night and wound up seeing one of the best players in the country. I found out later in the first quarter that the kid is number 5 in the nation on ESPN's Top 100 for the class of 2026. The kid is Jason Crow Jr., a 6'4", smooth-shooting left-handed guard at Inglewood High. I know now why Crow is a top 5 prospect. He dropped 45 points last night to lead Inglewood to an 82-69 win over Anaheim Fairmont Prep in the Division I semifinals. 24 of his 45 points last night came on three-pointers. Crow has one of the smoothest strokes for a jumper I've ever seen on the high school level, and I've seen my share of high school legends while growing up in Chicago. Crow is going to Missouri in the fall. How in the world did USC and UCLA let a kid like this get out of their backyard? No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned. Homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized, the families who watched their inheritance disappear, the wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI Trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
And its scholarly match today is Pastor Troy F. Vaughn. We'll continue the conversation with him in just a moment. Well, I was happy to see President Obama put out a powerful statement, what I felt was a powerful statement about Jesse Jackson upon his passing. One of the things he said in his 2 historic runs for president, he laid the foundation for my own campaign to the highest office in the land. Boom. I think that's important. He gave credit where credit was due. He talked about what an influential character, main character in civil rights Reverend Jackson was. He said he helped lead some of the most historic movements for change in human history, organizing boycotts and sit-ins, registering millions of voters, advocating for freedom and democracy around the world. And so happy to see that Pastor Troy Vaughn, as a pastor who's dedicated your life to service and helping the unhoused, you have to have some resonance with the work of the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Oh, yeah, he was a mentor of mine. I posted on a tribute to him on my Facebook. I met him years ago, and he deposited in my life greatly. And so, obviously that was hurt in a personal way, like for the nation, but hurt in a personal way. But he, fabulous person to me. I wrote this. It's very short, so I just said, Reverend Jackson was more than a civil rights icon. To me, he was a mentor, a covering, a living classroom. I remember sitting beside him at the head of the table while pouring into us. I remember thinking, how did I get here? How did God choose me to sit in this place of honor? Those moments of pouring must be recognized and cherished because they are few. Scripture teaches us that the younger are to yoke themselves with the elder. I learned that yoke is not about control, it's about alignment. And when you walk closely enough with wisdom, you learn its rhythm. You absorb its weight. You begin to understand not just to say, but how to carry it. Reverend Jackson saw me, and I allowed myself to be seen. That is rare. In a time when many leaders are too busy to pour into the next generation, and many in the next generation are too hurried to sit long enough to receive, I am grateful I had the humility to yoke myself with a giant. What he gave was so free and so priceless at the same time. His voice shaped moments. His presence shaped doors. His courage shifted rooms. But for me, it was the quiet moments at the table that mattered most. What I've learned is that legacy is not only what you build in publicly, it's what you deposit privately. Today, I honor the man. I honor the mentor. I honor the mantle. Today, I commit to doing what he modeled, to pour, to slow down, and to make space at the table. Rest well, Reverend Jackson. Your labor was not in vain, and your investment lives on. Pastor Troy Vaughn.
Okay, so that's a lovely tribute to Reverend Jackson. There are a lot of news stories flying by here in LA, and I think representative of the struggles that more cities are going to be facing if they're not facing already. I've seen national data, even though the White House likes to make it seem like it's an LA problem. The issue of housing costs pushing more and more people onto the streets, the issue of a lack of a safety net for the older Americans, or seniors, elders as some folks call them, pushing more and more people onto the streets. And so I want to get your thoughts on some of these recent developments. The LA City Council passed a motion by Monica Rodriguez, which still, of course, has to be formulated. What they passed is a, decision to have the city attorney formulate something to make it where they can go onto private property to put out fires that are created from homeless folks' encampments. The three of the progressive council members voting against it, saying we have to know what a fire hazard is. We have to have more information so that this just doesn't become another excuse to move unhoused people from one side of the block to the other and back. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, we need to make sure that we understand, encroachment and what it starts to look like and how much we start to use power. I think that what the city needs to do is make sure that it is taking care of properties that are already in plight, right? Like, I think that when we allow spaces to go unkept, right, we create opportunities for anybody, not just the homeless, to cause fires, right? An arsonist could walk by and just drop stuff in there, and so for so long, and it's not just the city, but across our county, across our state, we have a lot of spaces where our tax dollars are not being utilized, in my opinion, to take care of communities. And quite frankly, we have opportunities to reuse a lot of properties within our city, within our county, to help a lot of people in our community. We have, when we talk about eminent domain and we talk about the power that the government has to take properties or to even use its own authority, why don't it use its authority for property it already owns that's unused, right? And restructure that property and reimagine that property. We have so many vacant buildings, properties that are unused by government And
Is it
I
city
challenge the
government, county government, state government, federal? What are you talking about here?
Across the board.
Because I remember when Mayor Bass first got elected, she said that she had generated a list of vacant properties owned by the city, and it sounds like you're saying that neither the city, the county, nor the state is really moving on that.
Not to the place where I think they can. Right? And there could be factors that I may not be aware of why they're not moving as swiftly as I think they can be moving. But we need to understand that, and we need to really begin to focus on that as solutions to create housing that's affordable, and not give up our affordable housing stock that makes us less competitive when it comes to NOFO competitive markets on a national level. Allowing gentrification to take over. We gave up all of our affordable housing stock. Now we're trying to restore it. A part of the issue is many factors to the issue that continues to contribute to homelessness, that we keep pricing out the market. People can't afford to live here. And we're not creating enough housing solutions to get people that are maintaining the everyday components of life for a lot of us to be able to live in the very areas that they're working in. And we need to solve those issues. People need to be able to live comfortably in the areas that they're working in and not feel like they're on the fringe of becoming unhoused themselves because they can't afford there.
Right.
And that's a reality. That's a part of the reality.
LA County recently approved $200 million in cuts to homeless services, even though we, the voters of LA County, passed Measure A, which was supposed to fund these services, right? They're saying that everything costs more, which we know is true, but shelters, they're saying COVID money running out is creating a budget deficit, even though we passed Measure A. And so what does this mean? I mean, it feels like...
And they want another tax. They want another tax now to the maximum amount that's getting ready to come on the books. They want to tax us now again. They want another tax that takes you to the max allowable by the statute, because the reality is that you can't tax your way out of this. I don't care if you go to the maximum amount of taxes that people contribute. Listen, the Roman Empire failed because of overtaxation. There's so much. There's only so much taxes that people can do. You can't tax all the people's money that you're making them, and you're not giving them more money.
Well,
you're not giving them more money to provide the services.
So that sales tax that you're talking about is supposed to be filling in the gap from what the federal government is not giving us, that the federal government has cut from health programs. Supervisors are saying, well, we don't have any choice. We don't, unless we, the state of California, stop paying taxes to the federal government, then we could easily pay for our programs because we wouldn't have to be paying for the ones in Mississippi and Alabama. But right now, we're paying all this money and they're cutting what's coming back. So, I mean, what's the Board of Supervisors supposed to do in that case?
Well, I'm not saying that, I think they're doing what they think they need to do, but what happens when the gap is increased even more?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I understand that what people say that we need money now.
Mm-hmm.
But a part of the shortfall that we have in the county is not just because services. There were lawsuits too.
A lot of lawsuits.
That there were lawsuits too that contributed. Listen, I'm a realist. I work with all of these people are my partners, and I work with them. But the fact is that I know the issues, and so we can't just tell me that it's because the government's not giving us more money. There's lawsuits, there's mismanagement, there's levels at different areas that will create gaps as well. And we have to own that.
I mean, in the county, I'm sorry to say it, but it seems like the county sometimes just wastes money. How is the CEO, the county CEO, get paid $1 million or whatever it was for her, supposed pain and suffering, but still stays on the job and now is on paid leave? I don't get that. I don't. There's a culture there, and I know we have rules and we have unions and I'm a big supporter of unions, but it seems a little bit very cumbersome sometimes. That said, I mean, those lawsuits that you're referring to, sure, there's county sheriffs and stuff, but a lot of them are the sexual abuse lawsuits, right? That's where the big money is coming out of the budget.
And that has had negative impact on programming. I just want to make sure that, your listeners are understanding that there's multifacets to the issue, right? Yes, there are federal things that have happened that are creating opportunities for us to use that as cover, but it's not just at the federal level. We have local things that are converging from one direction into another, so now we're in the middle, and I think that what we're seeing is the impact that is on all of us. And we haven't watched the needle. We have not effectively watched it, and we hire people. And so when someone is, elected into office, we hire people that don't really understand this community or the issues. And I think we need to stop doing that. We need to start going to people who are subject.
Yeah, people go for the razzle dazzle, and then they don't get people with a lived experience or the understanding of where the bodies are buried in LA. LA County is vast; it's like a whole country. So, when you say the ins and the outs and the things that are in transition, are you talking about LA County pulling out of the city-county partnership in the homeless agency? I don't understand that. I mean, I kind of understand, but I don't. It seems like who's zooming who. The county pulled their money out, but yet they're still part of that agency, which means they would expect benefits from the agency, but they've taken their money out and gone home. They say they're starting their own agency. Who's getting left holding the bag here?
They did start their own agency, and
right.
while they did pull some resources, a majority of the resources out, not all of the resources out, because it still is a joint powers. Lastly, it's still a joint powers. And we need a joint powers to be competitive at the federal level for the resources that are needed here. Let's just be clear. And we need to be able to get those resources into our community. Now, we still are trying to figure out how the two are going to work together, and they need to figure out how they're going to work together. But those things are still being ferreted out. Contracts are still being ported over. Staff are still being ported over. I think we need to get a lay of the land and figure out where resources are going to be. Having said that, we don't want to overstaff ourselves, and we don't want to price ourselves and make sure that we overcommit. We got to make sure that we have balance and solutions. And I think a part of that is making a real assessment of what we already have in our community. I don't think that we've done a really good job of really understanding what our community resources are and bringing those resources to bear. And let me be clear here. And when I say that, our interfaith communities, not just Baptist faith, but I'm talking about our interfaith, all the faiths, all denominations, all types of faiths, whether should be pulled together to figure out what resources are. This is the time where I said it earlier, I meant it, is that it's everybody's issue. Everybody wants to figure out how to solve it, but we got to be brought to the table. And we got to make sure that we're no longer excluded from the process and the conversations. We got to be at the table to help really solve these issues, and not later, but now. Because a lot of times what happens is that when gaps in the resources are known, then those gaps are not discussed openly, and then they're passed on later. And I think that we need to start understanding the gaps now and figure out where we can leverage. Many communities of faith own properties straight out. Banks that have merged have a fiscal responsibility to use resources for community development. There's a lot of opportunities that can happen in our community right now if we all begin to talk openly and transparently about the issues. We still have siloed communications across, and I know this to be true. We still have siloed communications, and I don't know why it's embedded in our community so strongly. But these siloed communications will never get us to the place of solving the issues because everybody thinks they have a solution.
Yeah, so
so
from a layperson's standpoint, it seems really crazy to get yet another agency when people aren't even talking across the agencies and the government bodies and the departments, and we already have these clearly seem to have these giant issues with oversight. It seems like we're making a bigger mess rather than fixing the mess, but maybe I'm wrong, and I look forward to you telling me that I am, or telling me there's more hope and more coordination than I think so. We'll get to that when we come forward. Pastor Troy Vaughn is the author of From Skid Row to CEO, founder and senior leader of Christ-Centered Ministries. More straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned. Homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized. The families who watched their inheritance disappear. The wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers. And so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
All right, Pastor Troy Vaughn, I still have a bunch of questions, so we're going to do a little speed round here. He's the author of From Skid Row to CEO, founder and senior leader of Christ-Centered Ministries. So I asked you about the agencies. As we just created another agency. It seems like we already have a problem with transparency and communication between cities, counties, and nonprofits Is this going to make it worse? Is this making it worse?
Well, we've yet to discover that. I can't, I can't look into the future. I can't look into the future to tell you it's going to make it worse or not. What I can tell you is that the history of LAHSA was never, we got to remember that LAHSA was formed as a result of a lawsuit, right? Like LAHSA was never meant to be a long-term solution in the first place. And it doesn't have regulatory oversight in the same way the city and the county would have. The reason why it was a joint powers and you have split representation on its governing body is to create some level of oversight. But that's not the same thing as what the county felt and what the Board of Supervisors felt when the issues rose in terms of, audits and mismanagement and lack of transparency and accountability that prompted the federal investigation. That's what moved them to move the majority of their money out of LAHSA. And so I just want to talk about what got us here, right? The city contemplated itself moving out and decided not to do so. So what got us here? But we need to understand that LAHSA was created in response to a lawsuit years ago that created this joint powers to manage the funding.
Okay.
And so now what we have here now is
we're almost at the end of the show. That's the only reason.
I'm sorry. $840 million just approved by the county, almost $1 billion to pour into homelessness from the county perspective in fiscal year 26-27.
Okay, gotcha.
So let's see what impact that will have. As it relates to as they stand with this new effort.
Got it. Okay, I'm going to have to suspend my speed round because it's time to pass the microphone to Tavis Smiley. But Pastor Troy Vaughn, tell us where to get the book, if you would.
You can go to skidrowforceo.org, and you can go to Amazon. You can go to Barnes Noble, Books By.
Everywhere.
But everywhere you can get,
skidrowtoceo.org is a reliable way. Pastor Troy Vaughn, thank you so much. I can see that we're gonna have to lure you back here again.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to come back and finish this conversation because it's a deep conversation that's worthy of discussion.
Absolutely worthy, but I am up against the clock, and sometimes we have hard stops. I so appreciate you. Tavis Smiley is up next. He's waiting in the wings. He's got an incredible show. As usual, his Wednesday shows are fire. Like my mama used to say, history is now. Like I always say, we are making it together. Until tomorrow when we're joined by Dr. Gail Wyatt and you. Be safe. One love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to restore a slavery exhibit removed from Philadelphia's President's House Museum. This man says it may not happen.
The answer is they could, but they probably won't. While they file their appeal, they're going to ask that the status quo remain because they're so unreasonable.
Protesters celebrated the ruling as the judge said the government must follow the law and consult the city before altering the site. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is launching a new grant program aimed at highlighting the history and achievements of African Americans across the state. The initiative will support projects that preserve and promote Black heritage in communities statewide. And Shamar Moore and Vivica A. Fox are returning to The Young and the Restless for the show's 50th anniversary. Moore reprises his Emmy-winning role as Malcolm Winters, while Fox returns as Stephanie, bringing nostalgia as the soap celebrates its milestone. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the